Welcome to Transfer All Data, a custom Excel ribbon designed specifically for the Viewpoint database. There are two core concepts. You are either working with a data table, where you are importing, updating, and deleting records, or you are working with a report where you are downloading data. So to get started, I'm going to click the Tables button. That brings up a list of all tables available in the database. This includes any user database tables that you have created and all custom fields. For this example, I'm going to download the vendor additional address table. That downloads into a Excel table with all of the records. So if we wanted to add address sequence 10, I can change this value, assuming everything else is the same. Mark the row as import. Then we have our validate import button. That creates the insert statement. It returns a message of validated or failure. And if you get failure, it will give you an error message telling you why. In this case, it validated, so we're going to execute that import. That has now imported that record, so when I re-download, that is now going to download including the new record 10. So if we wanted to change any of these values, we go to that field, change the value. You can also use your F4 key. That will bring up a lookup for most of these columns. So in this case, if you wanted to look up specific states, you could look it up and select that state. Any change you make, you fill it in yellow. And then similar, we have a validate update. That will return the validated or failure. In this case, it validates, so I will execute it. That returns a green coloring, meaning it was successful. So when I download, that will now download as Georgia with the state. And lastly, to delete the record, we mark it as delete. Go through our validate delete, gives us a return of validated, so now we will execute our delete. So lastly, I'll download, and that record is now gone. So we have successfully added, changed, and then deleted the same record. So in addition to this, or these features, I'm going to show you the batch tables. So I'm going to download the GL batch. So this downloads already with 2 entries in here, but basically this could be your template if you are doing any monthly entries or accruals. You can basically have these columns set up so that you come in and just change the month each time. So if we need to do February's, you change February, and then you could change the amounts if needed. Otherwise, at this point, we can use the get batch number. This is going to retrieve a batch number based on the company and month, so you can have multiple companies and or multiple months on the same table, and it will assign appropriately. So we now have a new batch number. In this case, I'm going to run the assign batch sequence just to correct that, or you could manually correct it if you want. And then now we can execute our import. That will actually import those records into the batch. So at this point, we can go open the batch in Vista, validate and post it there if we want. Or we can scroll down and validate the batch. That tells you that the batch is validated. If you did get a failure, you can then use the batch action to get the batch errors. That downloads a separate report telling you exactly what's wrong, mirrors the error list report you would get in Vista. And then from this stage, since it validated, you have the option to post, or you could post it in Vista, whatever you prefer. But those are the batch functions. All of these blue workflow buttons are the same as this batch action dropdown, just depending on what you prefer as a user. So now we'll go on to report. So I'm going to click the report button. This brings up a list of over 100 standard reports. These kind of mirror the most commonly used reports in Vista. They are linked security-wise, so if a user has access to the AP aging in Vista, they will see it in here. If they do not, they will not see it as an option in here. So with all these reports that are across all of the modules, AP, AR, job cost, equipment, there is also a full financial statement set up in here. So you can download a balance sheet, an income statement, cash flow, a trial balance, and customize that to how your financial presentation is. So for this example, I'm going to just select the AP aging and just download it. So for these reports, and this also works on the table side, these parameters also have a F4 lookup. So you can either F4 on your keyboard or if you double click, that will bring up a lookup list for the companies. Any parameter that has the parentheses around it, that is a multi-select. So if you have multiple companies and you want to run those in the same output, it's very easy to just select whatever you want and then save those, and that will return those values. In this case, I'm just going to do company 1 with the default and hit download. So here is our raw data output for an AP aging. So this is one layout that's available. If I go to edit the query, you can also change it to a table. And so now when I download, it's going to download this into an Excel table. The main benefit is you get the filter bar, so you can filter for a specific vendor or whatever value you want. Other things you can do under edit query, and this is more curtailed to the report side, is adjusting what columns you want to see. So each report is a SQL query that has a lot of different tables joined together, giving the end user the ability to select from a long list of columns. So I'm going to go to the select option, and you'll see based on the tables in this report, these are all of the available columns. So if I wanted to add the vendor state to this report, I'm going to select it, and then I can use the blue arrow to push it over. You can double click, you can drag and drop, and then once it's on the right side, you can also drag and drop it here. I'm just going to get rid of those two. So now when I save this, it's going to save and update the query. And so then when we download and download with those parameters, we now see our state column. So as an end user, you have control of adding additional columns that may be useful to your business that are not part of the standard report. And it's easy as just selecting it from a list. You don't need to know how to write a SQL statement. The logic is there for you. And back under edit query, there's a lot of different functions you can do with these columns to make them more advanced, but it's as simple as just selecting it. Under the join option, you are provided with a list of columns that have potential joins. So what I'm going to do is just search for that same vendor state column. And in this case, we want to bring in the full state description, not just the 2 characters. So we're going to find that column. It's going to tell you that these are the available tables you can join with. We're going to do a left outer join in case the state is not entered on the vendor, and then just hit add and save. So now just by adding that join, if we go to select and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's our new state table. So we select the name, we can pop it over, rearrange, save, and download. And now when it downloads, there's our name. So you now have added a new table and a column from that table. And then lastly on this edit query, the where. The where is a way to condition the data. So you can add either a hard code if you only wanted vendors in Georgia, you can do that. Or if you wanted to do a parameter, you can also do a parameter. So when I add this, it's going to add that line there, add a parameter. So when I download again, we can now filter by state. And again, this is going to have an F4 lookup. So if I search for Georgia and download, those are the only 3 invoices out there for a vendor in Georgia. So for reporting side, it just gives the end user the ability to modify and create, or at least use the base reports as a source of that data, just to do easier reconciliations, auditing of records. Just makes it a lot quicker and faster than waiting or modifying a Crystal report in Vista. And the last option is going to be the templates button. Templates just basically contains different sub-processes of tables. So if you want to add records back to a batch, you can do that. It has all of the batch tables in here, depending on what you want to do with GL, JC cost adjustment. You can do company copies, so if you're doing any acquisitions and needing to bring companies into your Vista environment, you can copy the setup and make that entire process very smooth. There is full financial statement setup, as I mentioned prior to this. The mimic function allows you to, for example, accrue your AP unapproved invoices to job cost. And then there are also some setup templates down below, so if you need to create a new union or copy existing union setup to create a new one, you can basically download these templates and insert them as the new. So it just makes the setup and maintenance of your Vista environment a lot simpler, especially when you involve multiple companies. That's pretty much it for all the features. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions.